American Crime Story returns tonight. The wait is over. And here with me now to talk about the show's second installment, The Assassination of Gianni Versace, is Darren Criss.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Congratulations on your future Emmy and Golden Globe nominations.
Oh, geez. As long as it's a, yeah, sure. I'll take the nomination. Sure.
You put in work. It's great.
I love that you didn't go for the...
Well, you know, I don't want to, you know, like some people are very superstitious.
Thank you, but if it doesn't happen, that's okay.
If it doesn't happen, we're burning shit down, okay?
You can lead it, and I'll put a mask on and say it, and have complete deniability.
Okay, because I'm not playing with these award girls, okay? Now, you play the role of famous serial killer. I didn't know he was on FBI's top 10 most wanted list at one point.
This whole story is the largest failed manhunt in FBI history.
Yeah, I want to read the book that inspired the series. But Andrew Cunanan, if you don't know, he killed 4 people and then killed Gianni Versace himself. And in a very dramatic way. It's a very different role for you, I would say. What drew you to this part?
Well, I think a lot of people will say things like, "Oh my goodness, like what a crazy meaty role," and I think, and I'm very allergic to this notion that that if somebody does something horrible, if there's a darkness to something, that it's more important,
right, or more complex,
than somebody who is affable or has comedic value. They exist in the same plane, truly.
Absolutely.
They're not too far apart. So I don't want to say that a role like this is an actor's dream because of the horrible, destructive things that he did. That does not drama make, and that is not the reason why it is compelling. What's compelling is the social context in which that we're exploring in the show, and how a person like Andrew affects that social landscape, and how the landscape affects somebody like Andrew. The vast array of emotional colors and psychology that he went through, that he was born with. There's a lot of things that's why an actor goes to work, and that's what makes somebody interesting to try and make accessible to other people. His ultimate, most famous act is a horrible tragedy, and something that it would be a nightmare for that to ever be in any situation glamorized. But, you know, look, I'm an actor, and so I treat somebody like Andrew with the same amount of seriousness as I would somebody like a character on Glee or any of the Broadway roles that I've done. Even though they exist in different worlds, you know, you want to try and, again, find the human elements of them and yourself and share that with other people so they can question their own senses of humanity.
Yeah, and I've noticed that often actors who are perhaps known for playing comedic characters and being funny often do wonderful dramatic turns. I mean, I think of Robin Williams, you know, toward the end of his career.
I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Robin Williams. That was my biggest inspiration as a kid. But that always cracks me up when, you know, if you've had a comedic career of 20 years, you've been making people laugh for years, and you do a dramatic role and people go, "Oh, who knew?" And I go, "I knew, and why are we now applauding them for being dramatic?" Do you know how hard it is to make people laugh? If you've been doing that for 20 years, like, we should have given them an award for that.
Totally.
That is not an easy
much trickier than making people cry.
Comedy is way harder. So anyway, what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, I'm an actor, and so I act, and something like bringing somebody as bizarre and so somebody who really bends your own sense of empathy and where your own values and who you're rooting for, that whole sense being questioned, that's somebody who greatly interests me in general. So and here we are. So yes, it's a different role, but it's eerie because, yes, I do, you know, I'm in this, we have this sort of likeness. We're in the same.
You do look surprisingly similar.
We have, and same with Edgar looking sort of like Gianni. I mean, there is a sort of serendipity to the fact that we get to play these roles right now. You know, I'm in the same age range. We both have the almost exact same ethnic makeup. We're both half Filipino. So there's a lot of things that are outside of my hands as an actor that really made this a fortuitous story to tell, despite how dark and severe it seems. Objective from that, as an actor, you go, wow, I really lucked out.
And to your point about, you know, going back and forth between kind of rooting for him as a character and then also fearing him. I mean, at the very beginning, the first time he's speaking to Gianni Versace on camera, and you see him trying to break the ice and talk, and it's just like, I was like, oh man, I'm already feeling for this character who's about to do something very difficult.
Right. Well, we only know the most famous thing about this entire crime is in the title and also in the first 2 minutes of the show, and then or 2 or 5, however many several minutes it is, and then we have 9 episodes. So what's left? So yeah, you have to paint a much larger picture, and you really do. You kind, because we're going backwards. You already know the worst thing that can happen. You know that's coming. So the question everybody asks is why? How is this allowed to happen? And those reasons, to me, are the true American crime.
Absolutely. Was there a moment while you were shooting or rehearsing that you surprised yourself? That you kind of went, "Huh, didn't know I had that."
No.
You're like, I know.
Well, no. Also, I think I think people tend to think that the worst part of ourselves are much farther from us than they are, and that's not a bad thing. I think all of us have the most wonderful things right next to the worst of things. So we all have access to these emotions and places. When we say, God, that must be so weird, I think it's almost our sort of morality showing face, being like, well, I would never do that because I know I am this kind of person. It's our own sort of suppression of the demons that we all share and we have because we're all human beings. So it's just sort of tapping into that innate stuff that really is in all of us. And we all manifest them in different ways, and hopefully not to the extremes that somebody like Andrew did. You know, if we get mad or we have a bad day, maybe we use foul language or we just don't talk. Everybody chooses to execute these emotions in different ways. But I really do think they're much more accessible than you think. When you see stuff that might seem spooky or creepy on TV, you have to understand that on set, there's a crew, there's you and your friends, there's people. It's not just the two of us on camera, there's several people in the room. There's not eerie music playing in the background. It's just quiet like it is right now. And you just do the thing like it is in life. There is no soundtrack, there is no cutting to things that happen. So once you realize there's a reality to things, there's an accessibility to getting there on the day, and it's the camera, it's the editing, it's the music that make it sort of this much crazier thing. But
and to that point about the technical aspect was kind of added, you know, and it's different on set than how we see it. I wanted to ask you about color, because color seems so important in the way that it's shot and presented, and maybe would surprise people when they think about, you know, crime.
I think it's one of my favorite things about the show, and it's something that I think, at least when doing press stuff, you talk a lot about the acting process and the characters and stuff, which I'm very happy to talk about, but stuff that I have nothing to do with is the sort of overall design and tone of the show, which Ryan I think has become so prolific for. He really curates these worlds in these very amazing ways. Whereas OJ existed in this very beige, very drab, you know, courtroom.
Maybe think of like the plastic wall paneling.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's very indicative of sort of I mean, it's a courtroom drama, and so there's almost like a boringness to the world that it exists in, but yet it is so vivid and exciting in the way that the story is being told. So this is a totally different kind of series because it's a different crime, it's a different context, and when you're dealing with things like late 80s, early 90s excess, as personified by the quintessence of that would be somebody like Gianni Versace, who's literally the purveyor of said excess, the merchant of excess. You know, he exists in this very beautiful, color, glamorous, sexy life that the show follows suit for. We kind of see this very operatic world, and it's cool because it is juxtaposed against somebody like Andrew, who is the polar opposite. Has the same sort of creativity and vision and brilliance, but it's rooted in a very different place and comes from a very different place, and it's dark and dreary, and so yeah, there's a real epic scale as far as tone is concerned that I'm glad you picked up on, because when I watch it, I go, I haven't made it through the whole series yet, but there are parts of it where I feel like we're almost in, this is not like a fan theory or anything, don't take what I'm saying as law, but there are moments where I watch scenes where I go, God, like it's as if we're watching one of Andrew's own delusions. Totally. Like the way he saw the world is almost the way I'm watching the show, where the color and the sweepingness is like everything that somebody like Andrew would create and try and get people to see. about himself. So there's this sort of meta quality to the way that the show is designed. So I'm with you. The colors are so vibrant.
I absolutely agree. I mean, I felt like, if this is what he's seeing, I can see his desperation to get into that world.
Right. There are even scenes that, we don't know. We'll never know what was said or what happened or didn't happen. We don't know.